golf right now, it's going through a cultural change. Who knows what's coming down the path? So we have to act as though we could lose it all. Any sport would kill for millions of people trying their sport in some kind of digital format. The simulator place, how do we work with them to deliver them to the golf course 5 miles down the road?
Jay Karen, welcome to Changing the Business of Golf.
Thank you so much for having me.
Jay, in this series I asked my guests to propose 3 ideas that would change the business of golf for the better. Before we dive into that, let's find out a little bit about you. Tell me, what was your first experience of golf?
Everybody seems to have their golf origin story. Mine was when I was about 10 years old. I grew up outside of Atlanta, Georgia, and pretty classic. My dad would have a regular Sunday morning foursome. And then one of the guys occasionally would call in sick or say he couldn't come. And so I was one of 4 boys. And so he would go to the bench and tap one of the boys to fill in for the foursome. And as 10-year-old Jay, he tapped me for the first time. And so I went. And that's where I learned the game, was this kind of blue-collar country club in the suburbs where my dad's friend taught me how to swing. And the rest is history. It's been now 41 years that I've been playing the game and just always been in love with it.
What did it feel like that first time? Was it intimidating? Was it exciting? What happened?
I haven't thought about it in a long time, but my memory has it being intimidating because, one, I didn't know how to play well, didn't know the rules and all of that, but I knew that I had guides with me, that my dad and his friends were going to be kind and help me out. And I just remember the expansive land. I didn't realize how big of a physical game it was. I probably had only hit balls on a driving range, so once we got out on the course, I couldn't believe my eyes, how much land and how much beauty there was in this game.
And it's interesting as a kid, isn't it? Because you see those fairways and you want to go and travel across it. You want to go and explore.
I get maybe that's innate to us as human beings, wanting to go out there and explore in this modern age of technology and comforts, that's maybe our way of enjoying the earth, is walking these 5 miles along fairways and so forth. So there's something innate and wonderful about it.
So that's how you got started. How did you get into the industry of golf?
So in 1997, I'd moved to Charleston, South Carolina to get my master's in history. I was going to be a social studies teacher, high school teacher. That was going to be my career path, and my dream was to, shape the future of the world. And then in graduate school, I needed a little money, and so I got a part-time job at this local small organization called the National Golf Course Owners Association. Happened to be headquartered there. And a friend of mine's mother worked there, and she needed an assistant. And I started working there in August of '97, and 2 weeks into the part-time assistant job, they offered me a full-time job. And I thought, this is wonderful. First, it's golf, but also this thing called an association. See, I became quickly a student of the association profession that happened to be in golf. So I'm a golf executive, but I'm an association executive first that happens to be in golf.
And what kind of interested you about the golf business, the golf course business, whether it be public courses or clubs?
How dynamic the business is. I mean, we like to say we have 4 or 5 businesses under the same roof or under the sun as well, where golf courses are restaurant businesses, or hospitality, they're sports, they're farmers, and our crop happens to be turf grass. They're purveyors and caretakers of so much land, and they get to deliver joy for a living to people that come through the doors. And that's a pretty wonderful thing to be around, is when you get to work for hundreds or thousands of people that deliver joy.
And a CEO of the National Golf Course Owners Association, what is the primary purpose of the association?
Sure, we're a pretty traditional trade organization in the States, and we've got about 4,000 golf courses from coast to coast. The crown jewel of what we do these days is advocacy work. So a lot of government affairs, public policy, legislation that might be impacting golf, and or small businesses that we need to get behind. Lawsuits that might be affecting golf courses, other market forces that are impacting golf, we get involved in. So we're very much advocates first. And then I'd say the second jewel in our crown is education and information. We've been putting on conferences for decades, publishing Golf.Inc Magazine, podcasts and shows and white papers and research, anything that can help an owner-operator be a little smarter about his or her business. That's kind of 2. And the third is networking, just connecting people with each other. There's no better education than someone who's already done it. And so we connect the dots for people and connect them to each other.
Well, we're going to talk about some of those changing market forces and some of the ideas to adapt and move forward into the future of the golf industry.
Very good.
Jay, your first change for the business of golf is to fish where the fish are. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, stealing a page from the playbook of fishing, I suppose. But so golf is very esoteric. We have 15,000 properties scattered all over the United States, right? But the problem is, if you don't know golf, you don't know golf. And so many of them are private clubs, so they're literally private. They're not reaching out to the community to invite them to come play golf. And what I realized as a parent of two kids, especially when they were young, getting into sports, was all of my friends that had kids, we all signed our kids up for sports in the same place. And that was usually the Parks and Recreation, the local municipality and their parks and programs. Soccer, lacrosse, baseball, basketball, you name it, it's all there, and it's all team sport. Golf is rare to be found in those spaces. Now, yes, there are 3,000 municipal golf courses, and we think that's pretty wonderful, and we think there's a bright future for that. But there are thousands and thousands of communities that don't have golf courses in their municipal portfolio, but they have programming. And that's where 90% of parents go to take their kids to programming. If golf is not found there, then we're missing a huge opportunity here. And today, Gary, Parks and Rec divisions are not just golf courses, but they are programmed. They're like the admissions office for programming. So if you want your kids to take karate classes, well, the local park is not necessarily going to offer the karate class, but the local dojo that might be privately owned creates a partnership with the Parks and Rec as a place to sign up for the programs. So it's a public-private partnership in many ways. So all these golf courses after the past 30 years in this industry have developed really wonderful adult and junior beginner programs, but you have to go there and you have to know the course. If they brought those programs and the registration for those programs to the Parks and Rec divisions, then all of a sudden I think parents will be signing their kids up for golf because it's a choice that's among the others. And to the credit of the PGA of America and some others, golf has become a team sport for a lot of youth. In the PGA Junior League program, you get a uniform with a number and your name on the back, just like a soccer uniform. Boys and girls play together, co-ed on the same teams. So it's a pretty wonderful experience to sign up for. We need to find ways to get those programs at least exposed to the Parks and Rec divisions who are signing up millions of children for programs. I think that's the key to explosive growth in programming in golf.
Why do you think that hasn't happened to date? Is there a level of introspection, do you think, in terms of golf course businesses not looking beyond perhaps the gate or the high hedges and actually just kind of waiting for the business to come to them?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think in the DNA of our game, it's an invitation game. And so you send out an invitation. It's very different than being there, putting a table out and signing people up. It's a very different culture, so that's one thing. And second, with some of these programs, especially like the PGA programs, they want to make sure the quality of instruction and leadership in those programs are high. So they require PGA professionals to administer those programs. There are not many PGA professionals employed at Parks and Recreation divisions, right? So I don't think they've yet figured out, we can help them we can encourage them to do this. How do we create a more open source way of delivering their programs to the masses? How do you maintain the PGA quality of control? By allowing local coaches and others, like parents like you and I might have coached t-ball or baseball. How do they possibly give up a little control and allow parents to be the coaches of these teams, as well as provide the instruction, certifications, and standards? I think they haven't figured that out yet.
Well, you raise an interesting point there because as the son of a golf professional and with all great respect to the PGA, does it always need to be a PGA pro that delivers that first experience of golf? And you were talking about parent coaches. Maybe they are facilitators of an experience rather than even coaches as such.
Just like my golf origin story, a PGA professional didn't introduce me to the game. It was a family friend. You have physical education teachers all over America in schools introducing kids to golf through school programs, the First Tee programs everywhere. Most of them have volunteers, so it's already out there. It's a matter of it's almost like we have all the pieces here waiting for us to put together. So you're right. I think there's a way to do this, but the PGA, to their credit, I understand they wouldn't have the brand that they have now without the standards and their certifications and the programming and so forth. But it's a new age, it's a new day. So how do we work with the leadership to open this up a bit? And maybe where they can license the program where you don't have to be a PGA professional, but you have to go through something in order to teach the program of the beginning programs.
What can golf courses do themselves? Quite often in the industry we hear golf courses talk about, well, the associations should get together and do something about it. But what can a golf course business here and now today go and do? Maybe go and talk to their parks and recreation.
Easy. That's just go knock on their door and create a partnership. I think oftentimes these are revenue sharing partnerships with the local businesses that offer recreation in the Parks and Rec. So if it costs, $75 to sign up in Little Johnny and the Little Susie into the program, maybe the Parks and Rec division gets $10 of that for doing the sign up work. But create a partnership. Just walk outside beyond those hedges, get down there and talk to them.
You've talked about the need for golf to be as present as other sports. Where can golf look to for examples where things are done really well?
Well, I say the most egalitarian sports that I see in America are the ones where you can just see all the playing fields. And maybe that's the irony here, is that you see all the playing fields of soccer fields, baseball fields, and you see kids playing out there. But golf is just as visible when driving down the roads of our communities. You see them to the left, to the right, but you can't see the activity.
I mentioned my father was a golf professional, retired now, but I remember as a kid, he used to go and give golf lessons on soccer fields to the local kids who were never going to get into the golf club. And I remember them hitting shots through the goalposts on the soccer fields in mud in the middle of winter. Should golf take a little of that essence and be out there, perhaps even actually be in the parks?
Yes, in fact, there have been attempts at that for some reason haven't stuck around. We had a program in the industry for really small children called SNAG Golf, S-N-A-G. I can't remember what the acronym stood for, but these were oversized heads that were like either plastic or rubber with tennis ball size golf balls, targets, and you could set up any standard soccer field, or even small, maybe a half field, to play this game, right? Because 4, 5, 6-year-olds aren't ready for the real equipment yet. So that was kind of a gateway into this. And now that shorter courses are becoming more popular and golf simulators and all these things, we've got to find ways to use a smaller footprint to introduce really more the 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds. Because the problem is everybody loves to hit the ball far, right? That's the joy of watching that ball get launched. So how do we figure out some sort of magic ball flight that is limited, but how do we get kids that are in that 7, 8, 9, 10 age, when you find real passion for a sport, how do we get them to experience what our friends at the National Golf Foundation call shot euphoria at that age with a limited flight ball, and get just as excited about the game as we do when we see it go 250 yards? That's the key, and I think that has not been unlocked yet. If we can unlock that and use the existing fields that we have around America and not have to create more golf courses, that would be a winning formula, in my opinion.
Jay, your second change for the business of golf is creating a connection between off-course golf and green grass golf. Tell us about that.
So it was the National Golf Foundation probably 7 years ago now that started counting the people that don't play golf on golf courses or playing golf in, I guess Top Golf was kind of the darling at the time, golf simulator places and so forth. And apparently a few years ago, more people play that version of golf than on course, which is a gift. Any sport would kill for millions of people trying their sport in some kind of modern, even if it's a digital format. It's a gift because they're picking up a club and swinging at full speed. The question is, how do we get these people, these millions of people that are kicking the tires, over to the green grass facility as our funnel in that direction? One of the challenges with this is going to be that the businesses, the Top Golfs of the world, the simulator locations, and there are over 2,300 of these golf simulator locations in the States now, they're motivated to keep their customers coming back to them, right? But we know the best customer of even these off-course places are golfers. So if we can create golfers, not just repeat customers at these places, if we create true golfers here, which I think the key ingredient there is getting on the green grass course. That's what locks them in passionately for life, is that experience that we know so well. So we've got millions of people trying golf and playing golf, hitting into screens, which I think is pretty wonderful. We have to create connective tissue somehow. There has to be a quid pro quo here to go back and forth. And there are ways to do this. Either you have a simulator type business at the green grass course. That's like the best scenario. It doesn't have to be simulator. It could be these top tracer range, these gamified ranges. Perfect example is my friend Don Ray at Augusta Ranch in Mesa, Arizona. He has his multiple bays of top tracer, and he's got his short course, his executive course as well. He can move people literally from one to the other. So that is a perfect little microcosm for what we need to do as an industry. But the question is, how do we do that? How does the simulator place on Main Street, how do we work with them to deliver them to the golf course 5 miles down the road? That's our challenge, and I think we need to figure that out. Otherwise, we'll have squandered the millions of people that are playing golf in this way if they don't make it over here. We have to figure that out.
Is there not perhaps an opportunity for, you mentioned Don Ray there at Augusta Ranch, but he's doing that there at a green grass venue, so making customers who perhaps coming for golf entertainment feel comfortable, they can make that transition to green grass. But is there not an opportunity for the green grass golf course owners to go into the town and perhaps to create the connection that way?
Yes, I think that we're at 2,300 facilities now, and it's foreseeable that in the 10, 15 years time we could be double of that. It could be 5,000 locations. Like South Korea alone has 5,000 of these, what they call golf cafes. So the States, you can imagine this exploding. So I think this is great, Gary, to encourage golf course owners to go into their towns and they control and build those facilities, and then they can cross-pollinate. I have a friend of mine who owns a golf course near Lancaster, Pennsylvania, Steve Graybill. He has a place called Fox Chase. And years ago, I told us, I was like, Steve, you need to go into Lancaster and get some of that commercial real estate, which is on sale, by the way, because the commercial real estate market's been hurting since COVID. So you can get, for pennies on the dollar, you can go in there, breathe life into that with 10 simulators, call it Fox Chase 2. And if you're bringing in families and kids and all kinds of folks to that place, you can then introduce them 5 miles down the road to Fox Chase, and vice versa. You can have databases that you can market to each other. That is like the absolute best case scenario. And you're not having to invest hundreds of thousands in capital at your facility to build something out. It's native to golf. We have so many people right now that are doing the golf simulator thing that are just, bros that love golf. So let's hang a shingle and put some simulators in there. We've never done this before, and that's fine. But who knows the game and the customer better than golf course owners and operators? So maybe our podcast here will light the fire of thousands of owners and operators to do this.
But from a business perspective, it makes good sense as well. At a time where we're seeing climate change here in the UK, we're seeing weather interrupting golf through the winter. We're seeing clubs that are closed for months upon months at times, but also that opportunity to keep earning money when the sun goes down as well.
That's the thing about the golf industry, is that the cash register would stop ringing when the sun goes down, right? And I will say that there are a lot of folks that run golf courses that are okay with that. They like the seasonality of the business. They like it when the sun goes down, but there are a lot of folks leaning forward in their chair and they want to make the most out of their business, and they'll find ways to staff up if they can stay open. And we're seeing golf courses getting lights. Now they're building lighted golf courses, short courses with lights so they can play at night. Simulators are the antidote to, as you mentioned, the poor weather, the sunshine, and all of that. So if you're a business interested in maximizing itself from an economy standpoint, these are amazing opportunities.
To what extent do golf course businesses need to change their thinking or adapt their thinking to understand a different type of customer? We're very used to selling golf club memberships or green fees in frankly quite a transactional way, but some of these new customers are going to have different wants and needs, and they're going to want a hospitality and a fun experience as much as they are going to need a golf experience.
The definition of hospitality and service and all of that seems to be changing with the generations, right? In fact, I would argue that elegant self-service is good service to a lot of young folks now. I like to think about the day that the soda machine at the fast food places went from behind the counter to in front of the counter, so you can go help yourself. And we thought, my gosh, this is brilliant. But it's also brilliant for the business because it's less burden on the staff, and we get to serve ourselves. It was perfect. Golf needs to figure out how to update the customer experience to allow maybe for a little bit more relaxed environment, because golf right now, it's going through a cultural change. So the young folks, it's more diverse, it's younger, they want different things, they want to play their music, they want to wear what they want to wear, come as they are. Social media is the fuel of a lot of this, so the vibe of golf is changing. So if you're a business owner, I always say you need to err on the young side. When you take care of the younger customers first, even though it sounds antithetical because most of your money is probably coming from the older generation, but if you take care of the young customers, you will have taken care of almost all of your older customers. It's not the other way around, because the older generation wants to stay young. They want to be youthful. They will gravitate in that direction. They will start, 80-year-olds are using cell phones and AI and all of these things. They would rather move in that direction. So if you take care of them and you think about what they want in their experience, the older generation will say, yeah, I want that too. But it doesn't happen in reverse.
Presumably there's a level of urgency here, because if the golf course owners and operators don't get into building the golf cafes and simulators, someone else is going to come along, maybe a hospitality or a leisure business, and they're going to want to keep those customers. So the opportunity is now.
Yeah, it's if we don't take care of these young folks who are showing a passion for golf, either someone else will take care of them or they'll just find something other than golf. In today's day and age of social media, you can introduce and invent sports and games, and who knows what's coming down the path. So we have to act as though we could lose it all, right? There's been a history of hubris in our industry. The Tiger effect, we had millions of people gravitate towards the game and we thought, well, we must be special. And we lost those folks. In fact, we were in a 15-year industry recession. Hopefully we've learned from that. We have to assume that who comes through our doors today will not come tomorrow. So how do we try our best to keep them? No matter what is happening in culture, in the world, in society, business owners need to focus on retention. And if we have all these young people coming through our gates right now, take good care of them.
Jay, your third change for the business of golf is for golf to tell its good news story about the environment. Tell me more.
I had an epiphany last year when I was at a pretty wonderful resort in the middle of the Ozarks in America called Big Cedar Lodge. The founder of that company is Johnny Miller, and Johnny founded Bass Pro Shops. And there he also has this enormous aquarium and world-class exhibit of animals from around the world and all this. And I remember walking through this enormous room, probably 30-foot ceilings, and there were deer heads all over the wall. There were these prize bucks, and all that. I thought, okay, I'm not a hunter, but he was celebrating hunting. And throughout the exhibit, and I've seen this outside of his place too, the hunting and fishing world has claimed the word conservationism. They are conservationists in hunting. You can understand the cognitive dissonance I have walking through this room saying, wait a minute, how can this be conservation when I see all these carcasses everywhere? But I understand there's something behind that. There's a population control of the animals, and they care for it in a very particular way. But to the outsider, it's like, how could that be, right? And so I thought, well, what's happening in golf? And it's usually the outsider looks at golf and say, oh, they're polluting the land. And so we are on the defense usually. And we are quiet about our good story of how we do take care of the land, water, and air on our facilities. In fact, we're almost apologists in certain ways. Like, for example, one of the talking points in our industry is how much less water we are using. That's one of our big talking points. It is a positive trend, but it's not the most positive communication message out there, because to the layperson, they're thinking, well, if you're patting yourself on the back for using less water, it probably means you should still be using less water. Wouldn't it be great if you weren't using any water, right? And it's much more complex than that, as we know, and you all know. And so we have to do a better job of telling our story. We're not just stewards of the land and environment, we are the environmentalists. We're taking care of it for generations. These golf courses are going to be ours forever in so many ways, especially municipal golf courses. These are in the DNA of the Parks and Rec, they'll be there forever. We need to just do a better job and link arms with other associations and tell the public the good story of our environmental message.
What's the threat to golf, do you think, if we don't do that?
Well, when you look at where public policy is going in the States, especially with access to water, there's going to be a kind of a pecking order if the access to water keeps getting reduced. And if we don't make our case for how we are good culturally, economically, to our communities, we may fall further down the line. So we have to be engaged with our local elected officials, from the town council all the way up to the President of the United States. They have to understand us so that when they're thinking about policy changes, that golf is seen as a contributor to the community. So that's one. I guess another thing to this is simply in the school system, the education system, to understand how golf courses are unique environments to have the golf course be laboratories for learning, which is happening with the Golf Course Superintendents Association and the First Green program and others. Golf courses are perfect for STEM learning, and we need to bring our kids out there. Instead of just learning to play golf, let's get them out there understanding the nature, the business, how we take care of the land. There's an opportunity here so that we can flip the narrative and be more reflective of the truth than what the myths may be about golf.
Recently I was at Bethpage ahead of the Ryder Cup, and one of the areas of forest they have just off the course, but right next to an elementary school, they've turned into an outdoor classroom. So the kids can come straight through, and it's nothing to do with golf, it's learning about the nature in that golf course environment. As part of that same series that we're filming for Syngenta, I was also in Arizona to learn about the challenges they face there with water, and obviously it's acute there, or it's at least acute in the public's mind. And what was really important there for the Arizona Alliance for Golf was to put the data out there, to put the facts. Where the public thought that 30 to 60% of public water was going on the golf courses, the fact was it was 2%. Mm-hmm. And there was a $6 billion economic opportunity. Those facts alone helped persuade, or were very influential in the debate, to the extent that the golf courses are now part of the policy making process around water. And that really is kind of quite a good example of how, by speaking up, getting the facts out there, golf gets a place at the table.
I think there's one step further we need to take on that, because even if I was a non-golfer and I'm looking at the water use in my desert community, and I see that golf is far down the list and they're using 2%, I may still think that's 2% too much. On one hand, we can say, look how little water we're using, but I think we need to take a step further and make sure that even non-golfers understand what we contribute to a community, the health benefits of golf as well. As green space continues to shrink around America, golf courses may be the last thing standing, so we need to preserve these opportunities to go and burn 2,000 calories and have a wonderful time with our friends, the mental and physical health benefits. If they understood those things, then they may have zero issue with wherever golf may be on that list.
Nature is a big part of it as well, and sometimes when I travel around golf, I see golf courses who talk about nature as if it's kind of a nice to have. It's a nice, look at the pretty flowers there, or whatever. But it's getting the message out that stewardship and management of the green spaces, the valuable green spaces, is so important, because nature is intrinsic to clean air and fresh water, etc., etc. So these are really, really important things, and golf has a great opportunity and platform to engage with wider communities.
We have tens of thousands of people coming through each facility, oftentimes all year long. Why not have signs all over the course that say, did you know? Did you know that turf grass is an amazing filter for the water system, and it goes back into the water table cleaner than it came through? Did you know that we have 48 species of birds on this facility? Education like that, especially with all the corporate and charity tournaments that happen at golf courses, where non-golfers are coming to golf courses usually once a year and checking things out. It's an educational opportunity for the adults, not just the children.
I was at a golf course in Spain recently talking to an ecologist who had no knowledge of golf before he started working with the golf course. He even kind of suggested he might do a 1-month trial run because he was very, very nervous about working with golf. He could not believe the extent of nature when they did the surveys. They even found eels on up the streams and into the lakes, where they thought there was no access to the main waterways, which is extraordinary. So he is converted, and I wonder if that's also an opportunity, and also demonstrating, changing the perception through communication, showing this is the nature. Maybe going back to that with STEM, with children, bringing them onto the golf course and showing them what's on site.
I have to give credit to the Golf Course Superintendents Association for what they do. They've built a grassroots advocacy program. And so they're inviting local officials to come out to the golf course and see for their own eyes these things. We just had National Golf Day recently, where the GCSA brought out folks from the White House and the administration to come look at a golf course in the Washington, D.C. area, and for their own eyes see the management of what's happening, and they were astounded. So we have to continually do exactly what you're saying, from children up to the elected most high offices in our land. We need to continue unabated these things.
Jay, you have one bonus change for the business of golf for us. What is that?
Well, I would say actually the change is happening. And I think the bonus issue here is how do we harness this? We're seeing more activity in the tee time space than we have in 25 years. Since the race of the online tee time companies, when the internet was so new, all these companies racing to be the ones online to win the day and win the hearts and minds of the customer. And the golf courses where heads were spinning what's just happened with this thing called the internet. So here we are 25 years later, 30 years later actually, with things like artificial intelligence. Google has entered the tee time space. We now have entries into the market that are trying to be what we call the stub hubbing of golf reservations, reselling them. So you could buy a tee time and resell it on your own for a profit. Credit card payments and how that is changing. No-shows are a $1 billion problem in the US. So there are a lot of entities that are touching the wallets and the tee sheets of golf courses more than we've seen in a generation here. Golf course owners and operators are running small businesses. They're just trying to take care of their customer, and if they're not paying attention and not engaged in these processes, we could lose control of the relationship with the customer to disintermediaries. Let me give you an example. If you're going to use that AI chatbot and say, okay, I'd like a tee time this Saturday, 3 players between 10 and 11, and you've got your AI bot, and maybe it's named Jack or Nicholas or something, and it brings up the options. Okay, I'll take this course, great, and it helps facilitate the booking. Who's behind that booking? Who's getting the customer data? Who's getting the payment? How does all of this happen? And I'm glad that it's happening because golf needs to be in these spaces. But we have to be sure that golf course owners and operators still are able to control most or all of the relationship and the economy of that entire ecosystem. So to work with partners is a good deal, but we cannot lose control to these partners so that they harvest more out of the golf economy than they're bringing as far as value.
So how do the golf course owners do that? How do they go about it? How do they maintain control? Because this is another challenge. It's an opportunity, but it's a huge challenge as well.
It's through the terms and conditions of the agreements. When we work with these third parties, these great companies that are trying to offer a service between supply and demand. And that's the job of our association, is to bring all of these players together and talk about the future rules of engagement. And we plan on doing that at NGCOA. The technology companies, golf course owners, we need to sit down together in workshop settings and come up with the new terms and conditions before we get steamrolled by enormous entities that could take control of these things. So it's just a matter of good old-fashioned humans sitting down around a table and figuring these things out together.
Jay, it's been great speaking to you. Thank you for your changes to the business of golf. Jay Caron, thank you very much.
Thank you, Gary.